Hey everybody, this is Emar Substitute. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. Hope all is well with you out in the world. We're recording this on August 24th, 2020. It's a kind of a dreary, overcast Monday morning here in Atlanta, but we're grinding and rising and doing everything that we need to do. Got a full task going on today, watching a lot of the recaps of all the content from last night, and we'll get into a lot of that, as well as some other news and notes in the world of sports. But as always, we want to follow everything that we're doing. Head to the mothership, the sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You also could go to our social media platforms at Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. You can go to our Facebook pages, which is the Sports Inquirer or Sports Inquirer, either one. You do a search and check everything out. And finally, you can go to our different platforms of the podcast. You go to YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcast, or iTunes. Either one of those, you do a quick search of The Sports Inquirer. You'll get our show, and that'd be a great way to listen to everything that we're doing. On today's broadcast, we're going to start off with the original free kick as far as Atlanta United earning a victory over Nashville SC in MLS action. We have plenty of thoughts on that, as well as audio from manager Stephen Glass, Brad Guzan, and Pity Martinez. We also will talk about the NBA thoughts, or we'll discuss the NBA in the Backdoor Cut portion of our show, where we'll recap everything that went on in the NBA. And if I'm Miscellaneous Department, we'll break down the Indianapolis 500 and some other sports that took place around the world. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to delve into Atlanta United's win over Nashville in the original free kick here on the Sports Inquirer Show. All right, and welcome back to the Sports Inquirer Show. Let's get settled in here. I didn't even give my update on how things are going for me. I'm doing all right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Been home quite a bit. Was able to go out this weekend a little bit and go to the store and go to the gym, do some normal activities. But it's really to the point where, now I was talking to my neighbor about this yesterday, where you only really go 4 or 5 places. It kind of be around the same amount of people at this stage of the game. Because I look at, we've discussed this before about the different sporting events, wherever you're listening to us around the world or domestically here in the United States. I'm sure that your favorite sport, well, there's rare occasions, but most of the sports are not allowing fans to attend contests. And that includes some media as well. The restrictions have been very limiting. And for example, this past Saturday, I did not attend the Atlanta United contest. Normally I would, but criteria for media credentialing is a little bit different now. And furthermore, the process, the screening of getting people into the stadium and the situation scenario, it's better for me to work from home at this time. And that's kind of how it's been for, I'm sure, whatever job you have. You've probably done some home assignments, unless you have a customer service related job, and that includes essential workers, things along those lines. I thank you for your service with that and appreciating that, or if you're in the military as well. But outside of those, I'm sure if you have a lot of other professions, you found the way to be at home in some way to do your work. And we're in the same boat as well. So that's why we're grinding and rising, or rising and grinding, whatever the term is, to keep it moving and go on. But since I brought it up, let's go into the Atlanta United contest and their 2-0 victory over Nashville SC on Saturday, August 22nd. Pity Martinez behind the brace, so they were able to defeat Nashville in the club's first match in the continuation of MLS regular season schedule. And Martinez, he scored a goal in each half, and Brad Guzan had 5 saves to preserve the clean sheet. We saw a debut of Cubo Torres, who got an assist in the contest, and Mo Adams and Eric Ameti each had assists as well in the victory. First goal of the contest came in the 40th minute when Pity was able to slice through the Nashville defense after receiving a nice pass from Ameti about 40 yards out, and Martinez was able to move past several defenders, including Walker Zimmerman, and took an open shot at goal and was able to make the score 1-0. Very nice style of play. We'll get into the style of play for Atlanta after we hear the comments from manager Stephen Glass, but very open style. You saw George Bellow, and we'll talk about Bellow as well later on, but the left back, very forward, very up front, You saw Martinez playing up front a little bit more as well instead of midfield. So we saw a lot of that action, and they're rewarded with the first goal. Now there was a change in at halftime for Atlanta. Fernando Mesa, the defender, he took a knock in the first half, and he was replaced by Miles Robinson. We're going to talk with Coach Glass today and see if we can update injury-wise on Mesa. But that also allowed Adams, and Adams also came in later on in halftime. Actually, he came in half as well. And so there were 3 changes, actually. So Mesa was replaced by Miles Robinson. We also saw Mo Adams and Cuba Torres. They made their appearances in the start of the second half as well. And then the second goal of the contest came in the 87th minute when Martinez was fed a nice back pass from Torres. He passed the ball into the penalty area. Mo Adams tapped it back to Pity Martinez, and he struck a really strong ball in upper left-hand corner of the net to make the score 2-0. And that was the final score. Let's hear from Coach Stephen Glass on the victory, and then we'll move on to Guzan, and then we'll talk about statistics. So here is Stephen Glass on the win.
I'm delighted with the response from the players. You're never sure exactly what's going to happen until the ball starts rolling. So we've seen a great response in training, and they've carried it on tonight. Their work rate was amazing, considering they're a couple of games behind Nashville. Obviously, they've had a couple of games on the road. So there's the fitness aspect and how hard they've worked. We're really pleased that they got the reward for all the work that they've put in.
And now with Stephen Glass discussing the victory over Nashville. Just a really solid effort overall. And here's Brad Guzan discussing the victory as well, the captain of the team.
I had said the communication was there. It wasn't just talking to talk and just being able to talk on the field and that sort of thing. It was talking about sequences and plays that happen in scrimmages and in training. And tonight, I think you saw, especially that there were times when we had excellent sequence of play and build up from back to front. Of course, it wasn't perfect for the entire game, but we knew it wasn't going to be, and we knew there were going to be times when we had to react in a positive way to make sure we had to put out some fires and defend and do all of those things that Nashville's entitled to have the ball as well. We definitely need to be a bit cleaner with the ball, myself included, and that's going to come. But I thought when I talk about the communication a couple of days ago, I think you look at the spacing of players, the roles of players, of the expectation of where players are going to be, and that's down to the communication in the training habits that we've been working on for the last 3 weeks. I just watched the first goal back. The first touch from Pity, the ball from Eric, the first touch from Pity is fantastic, and then he obviously, with a bit of magic, goes and puts in the back of the net. So these are little things that will ultimately make a big difference. And so this is, tonight is one step in the right direction, and we know we have to get better. Like I said, it wasn't perfect, but it certainly was a positive night for us. And in terms of playing at an empty Benz, it certainly had a strange feeling to it. We missed our fans tremendously. I think they know what they mean to us. We certainly know what they mean to us. And so to be in this stadium and not have that, it's never happened. And so now when it has happened for the first time, it was certainly different. But we know that they're with us from start to finish, and hopefully it won't be too long before we're able to have them back cheering us on in person.
And that was Brad Guzan discussing the win and just the importance of it and the control of the contest that they had. As far as shots go, Atlanta was actually outshot in the contest. Statistically, offense, if you look at it, they outshot 15-6. Atlanta was. Nashville had more shots on target, 5-4, and Nashville had more corner kicks, 7-2. But if you look at some of the other statistics that really show the control of the play for Atlanta had more clearances, 26-11. They had more time of possession, 56% compared to 44% for Atlanta. We discussed when MLS's back tournament took place in Orlando that ultimately led to dismissal of Frank DeBoer. Atlanta did not control possession consistently in their contest, particularly against Cincinnati, and when they had the meek 1-0 loss there. So getting possession was very important, but also the wide open play. And as I mentioned, you had a lot more guys up front. It was a more assertive attack. Now you left yourself a little bit more open defensively in that regard, but still you controlled the pace, controlled the style of play. And here is Stephen Glass discussing that style of play against Nashville.
I think, at times, delighted. Obviously, there was a little bit of rustiness the way that we were playing. We're trying to be expansive. There's going to be mistakes, but I think the important factor in that is there was a great response every time we gave it away. So we were difficult to play against, and it wasn't an easy thing for if Nashville stole it or we gave them it. It was quite difficult for them to get through. The times that we did cut through them, there's one in particular in the first half, right, playing out from Guzan right at the back, ends up on the left wing, and there's a cross coming in the box. So that's exactly what we're looking for. That's exactly the type of team we want to be.
And here's Stephen Glass discussing the win, or discussing the style of play Atlanta showed in the contest. Now let's hear from Pity Martinez. There's been much criticism or critique of Pity's play under Frank DeBoer, and Pity during the midweek, and we played the audio, tried to dismiss that and say that it's really up to the players to produce, and because everyone talks so much about the manager and everything like that. But you definitely saw a more comfortable style of play with Atlanta, and Pity discussed that after the victory. So here's Pity Martinez on the Atlanta system in the win.
Obviamente, la verdad que me siento cómodo. Creo que con el técnico anterior también jugué varias veces en esa posición, pero bueno, es el primer partido recién. Hemos podido revertir la mala actuación que habíamos tenido en Orlando, eso es seguro. Entonces no hay que relajarse. Obviamente que hoy fue un gran partido, una gran muestra de actitud nuestra. Tenemos que ir por ese camino, no confundirnos y seguir trabajando, que es lo más importante. Después mi posición y el equipo se va a sentir cómodo si yo estoy bien. Y nada, tenemos que seguir trabajando duro en la semana para lo que viene.
Yeah, I feel comfortable, but I felt comfortable as well before. This is something that, I think we showed a good performance and showed we've been working on so far. But the most important thing is, I think, that the team is doing well. So if I'm comfortable in my role, then I think the team as a whole can be comfortable. And we just have to keep this attitude, work on these things in training, and keep staying on this right path.
And that was Pity Martinez discussing the win. He had a team-high 32 passes attempted in the contest. He also tied Franco Escobar with a team-high 7 recoveries. And as I say, he scored his first 2 goals in the 2020 season. He has now had 7 career goals for Atlanta. So the 2 goals against Nashville. Here is Pity Martinez discussing the 2 goals and just his approach to those attacks.
Fueron 2 lindos goles. Primero, gran pase de Eric. Eric, la verdad que viene teniendo una gran actuación, tanto en las prácticas que veníamos entrenando, y bueno, hoy lo demostró. Él tiene un gran pase largo, y bueno, se abrió un espacio, traté de buscar el espacio, y bueno, después el control fue bueno, el enganche también, y bueno, la definición. Pero nada, el segundo también, por ahí se vio más el trabajo que venimos haciendo en equipo, por ahí el contragolpe, estuvimos precisos, y bueno, creo que el gol fue muy lindo, pero me quedo con el rendimiento total mío y del equipo en lo que fue todo el partido. Creo que fue muy bueno en actitud, en lo que se vio, lo que trabajamos la semana, que eso es lo más importante, hacer lo que entrenamos y cada vez mejor.
They were both nice goals. The first one is a great ball from Eric, and I was able to have a good first touch and then a good move, and then to get the shot on goal. And the second one as well, Eric, it was a great pass from Eric, and he's been training really well, and I thought he had a really good performance tonight. The second goal is a little bit of what we've been working on in training. It's a counterattack, and the movements that we set up, we were precise and we were able to capitalize. But I'm going to take away from this game the whole team's performance and my overall performance as well, and the things that we're working on and trying to get better.
And here's Brad Guzan discussing his 37th clean sheet for Atlanta United and his first one of the 2020 season. Here's Brad Guzan.
It was going to be good enough coming into the locker room after 90 minutes. So that part was huge. We knew it was going to be a hard game. There's no easy games in this league. And so we knew that we had to be on the front foot. We knew we had to try and get the first goal. And as they say, goals change games. But to be able to get the first goal, to then be disciplined and not just get careless and reckless and still be still trying to play how we want to play and defend the 1-0 lead for most of the second half till ultimately, he seals it with the second goal. That part was encouraging for me. I think you've seen at times us be a bit vulnerable, whether we score first, whether it's 0-0 and we concede. So to be able to defend a 1-0 lead, that in itself is progress. And so we have to make sure, like I said at the beginning, we continue to build on this and continue to move in a positive direction.
Jonathan. And that was Brad Guzan once again discussing the importance of the victory and keeping that clean sheet. Just 3 more stats of importance that you saw in the contest before we move on to Atlanta's next contest. It was Remedi's 3rd career assist with the club. His last one came July 7th, 2019. That shows you once again he was forward. Emerson Hyman, I thought, put in a solid shift overall for the team. You saw him forward. He had a few shots on goal. You just saw a more pressing or more forward style of play for Atlanta. So Remedi getting an assist showed that. Anton Walkes, who is back with a second stint with Atlanta United after going to Portsmouth for a short tenure. We've not seen him play as much we didn't see him play much under Frank DeBoer in comparison to Tata Martino, who brought him in. We saw much improved play from Walkes. He played the entire contest, 71 touches, has 64 pass attempts. So he was very active in the offensive and defensive transition flow of the team. And finally, George Bellow, the teenager. We can still say he's a teenager because he's not 20 years old yet. The homegrown product, literally from the metro Atlanta area in Douglasville, but he's technically homegrown talent for Atlanta United as well in the books. He had a strong night, 92% completed passes, 34 for 37 overall. You saw him in that left flank position. We've seen him try Breck Shea there last year. He, unfortunately for him, suffered a season-ending knee injury. Bellows so he could not fill that role consistently last year. Bellow has been dealing with his own injury woes, but he was able to play in the MLS's back tournament, and you saw him last night after Atlanta has had another probably month break or so from play. He looked very strong in that contest. I know a lot of supporters, they want Bellow to be the man, to be in that left back position, and I agree. And if he's healthy, he is their best option. So it's good to see him play a full 90 minutes or play a majority of the contest. Atlanta has a quick turnaround. They play on Wednesday, August 26th against Miami SC. And they actually travel to Miami for the contest. And it's their first matchup ever with the expansion franchise. And here is Stephen Glass discussing what the team will need to do, what improvements they need to make to get a winning streak going. So here is Coach Glass once again.
A lot of it's going to come with time. Like I said, it's the first game, and they've been itching to play against another team. They've been playing against each other for 3-4 weeks. So the difficulties that throws up, you try to change teams around to keep the whole group as fit and strong as they can and make it really competitive. So I think just naturally they're going to get better at keeping the ball, moving it quicker. Like one of the earlier questions, if it's getting moved a little bit quicker, people get more time on the ball, they've got better options. So I think as a natural fitness and a natural game feeling comes back, we'll be a whole lot better on the ball. But I think when you score a couple of goals and you don't let one in, there's some level of success within that tonight. So we're fairly pleased, but we know there's bits and pieces to work on.
All right, now Stephen Glass discussing the areas of improvement for the team overall. So we will have more content from Atlanta United continuing. Now that they go from not playing for a month consistently to all of a sudden having a 3-match in 7 days. So it's going to be very interesting how the stamina of the team works. And once again, we have injury update on Mesa. Ezekiel Barco, he had a training session injury the night before the contest against Nashville. So we need to get an update on him as well and what his status will be. But all bodies have to be available for them to make it through this streak. And now they travel down to Florida, where it's going to be very warm. I think they should have the matches. That's another good question. I didn't even think about this. The Gulf Coast is really going to have to deal with, I guess, 2 hurricanes or 2 storm levels of very high levels over the next few days. That obviously includes the state of Florida. We'll see what will happen there and how that goes. So we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll discuss the backdoor cut, or discuss the NBA in the playoffs in the backdoor cut portion of the Sports Inquirer Show. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Sports Inquirer Show. E. Marcel Patute here with you. Let's start off with the game of the day, or from yesterday in the NBA, with the Dallas Mavericks earning a 135-133 victory over the Los Angeles Clippers. Luka's a bad man. We'll start with them. That's the thing that everyone is talking about right now. And you look at dominant performance, 46 minutes played, but a triple-double, 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, hit the game-winning three-pointer in overtime. We all celebrated with, unless you're a Clippers fan, I guess you didn't celebrate it, but tremendous performance by him. His control of the game is the thing that impresses you the most with his contest. And let's go into the contest heading into it. We know he had the bad left ankle, had a really nasty sprain in Game 3 of the series 2 days ago. He was questionable that if he was going to play. Furthermore, Kristaps Porzingis, he didn't even suit up for the contest. He was dealing with an injury. So you head into that. The Clippers, they needed to win that game. You're up 3-1. You're probably going to win the series. So you got to figure that the Clippers can't, and it's the playoffs, every game is important. So the motivation is there for the Clippers to perform. And Doncic just had a tremendous night. And going back to what I said about a minute ago, the pace of play is tremendous. For a man that's his size, and we saw him and Montrezl Harrell had a moment in Game 3 where had some trash talking. Before Game 4 in the layup line, they met up, had a few words, I guess, to clear the air and everything like that. I think Mark Jackson, the commentator, who didn't have his best night commentating, but he did make a good point where you looked at Harrell and Luka, they're the same size. We think of Montrezl Harrell, big 6'7", 6'8" guy, big muscular, build, and we look at Luka, and let's just say he's not David Robinson. He's not cut like in that regard. But you look at their size, and they have different. And you think Montrezl is a bruiser, physical inside guy, and he is. We think of Luka, he's just a soft, kind of pudgy looking forward. But you look at them, and you compare them, they're the same size. They're the same weight. They look the same way. It was amazing how big Doncic is. And the point of saying that is that we have this point guard, and he's the point guard of the team. There's no point forward and I know Hardaway and Curry, they come in, they handle the ball quite a bit, but it's Luka's team. He is the starter. Trey Burke, he's been playing quite a bit, and he had a big night as well, 25 points. He was really their second offensive option, especially in the fourth quarter and overtime. But it's Luka's team. He has the ball in his hands the entire contest. And you just look at a guy that size as a guard who handles the ball and gets to the lane so easily. And the Clippers, they pride themselves on defense. That's what we've heard all season. And I know Patrick Beverley is out. Patrick would have no answer for Luka. But you have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, all these perimeter defenders in the system that the Clippers keep talking about. But Luka is just getting to the lane every possession. And I know Kawhi had a nice defensive stand in the fourth quarter against Doncic, and Kawhi, he had a very good night as well. And we'll get to the Clippers numbers and what this means for them in a moment. But you look at just the perimeter defense of the Clippers and where they pride themselves on doing that. Luka just has complete control of the contest. 17 rebounds also, and that's the thing that gets lost. The points and assists, you'll kind of get those. Well, I mean, in 43 points, nothing to just ignore. But he has the ball, and he shoots the ball so much, he's going to get his points. And as I said, he's their point guard, so he's going to get their assists. And Dallas is a solid shooting team from the perimeter. But the 17 rebounds, to get in the lane so much and to control that part of the game is just tremendous for him. And it's a tied series, and you have to look at this as it's a coin flip. Especially now, if Porzingis is not able to come back, that's going to be very tough for the Mavs to win 2 out of the next 3 games. But there's no home court advantage. It's equal. They're all playing in Orlando. And I think this is a big help for, and I'll say this as an overarching theme. And I was trying to figure out when they're playing in this bubble or this resort in Orlando, does it favor the home team or the road team, the team with home, quote unquote, home court advantage, the higher seed, or the lower seed because they don't have to go travel and play as many road games? I think the advantage ultimately goes to the higher seed, the home team, or the traditional home team. Because we look at a lot of these series, if you're the lower seeded team, you would bank on having, you guess, the traditional thing is you split the first 2 games on the road, you win your games at home, and now you have a series. Now you're in it. In this scenario, you can get that quote-unquote split, win the first game or the second game on the road, and what are you coming back to? You're going right back to the same court, the same arena for this bubble. So I think that in this situation, it would be very interesting to see Dallas if they were able to have home court in this series. I still think the Clippers are going to win this contest or win the series overall. But you look at, and I said Kawhi, he had a very strong night. I thought he was the second best player on the court, 32 points, 9 rebounds. He played 47 minutes. And this is where the load management thing, we know he's kind of the ringleader of that, or the poster person for that concept. We'll see how he physically is doing, because we know he's always nursing some injury or he's hampered by something. Playing 47 minutes is very tough on him. But you look at him, but Paul George, that's a glaring weakness as well. 45 minutes, only scored 9 points, had 8 rebounds, only 3 assists. We know his shot is not good right now, and he missed a layup in the fourth quarter as well. That would have increased the Clippers' lead to 3 late in the contest. He missed the layup. Dallas was able to go back down the court and tie the game up, and that's what ultimately ended up being. And Kawhi had a chance to win that game as well. End of regulation, he missed an open shot. But you look at Paul George defensively, what is he doing? He's not giving you much. And Kawhi as well. And going back, I know we're kind of rambling right now because there's a lot going on, but the last shot, the one that Luka ultimately made, Luka's a great shot, the step back 3-pointer. Now he works on that shot all the time. We see him take multiple attempts of it every contest. So it's not like a shot that just came out of nowhere. But how, as you, Kawhi Leonard, or Paul George for that matter, how do you allow a screen? I know they're switching everything as far as defensively, but how do you allow Luka to get that type of shot in that situation? How do you not, as Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and this is a Doc Rivers issue as well, and I don't like his tone as well, and this transitions, I guess, to the Clippers side of things. That last shot was kind of the epitome of what the Clippers season has been. It's like, it'll be all right, we'll work through it, we're just going to use the system, we'll just go with the flow, and it'll all work out. In that type of scenario, if you're Doc, if you're Kawhi or Paul George, one of you has to say, darn it, we're going to double team Kawhi, we're going to double team Luka, and if Tim Hardaway hits a fadeaway 3, or if Trey Burke gets a layup and we lose the game on that, all right, we don't want that to happen, but we can accept it. But the fact that Luka was able to get a clean look, a clean catch, get multiple dribbles, and shoot off of 2 feet for that 3-pointer, that's unacceptable. And this is the type of attitude the Clippers all year have been like, we can turn it on when we want, we can get it together at a certain point. It's going to cost them, maybe not this series, but you look at the rest of the playoffs, there are some heavy hitters in the Western Conference. And the Jazz are looking like a team that could be of intrigue. They were able to defeat the Nuggets 129-127. We had Donovan Mitchell another 50-point performance, 51 points on the night. I think he has two 50-point performances in the same series. Now, I'll have that stat next time, but it has only happened a handful of times. A man scoring 50-plus points in 2 games of a series, and we're only in the first round. So he's been a really big contributor for the team. Denver, just defensively, they lack so much. And Jamal Murray, he had the quietest 50 points you could ever think of. 50 points and 11 rebounds in a loss? Wow, that's really hard to do in any era of the NBA, but especially now. I think the Jazz, I mean, they're up 3-1. In this type of scenario, you think, okay, they're going to go to Denver, then they go to Utah. 2 very intimidating or strong home court advantages. We don't have any of that right now. If the Nuggets could play a shredded defense and figure out a way to get the ball out of Mitchell's hands, they could win the series still. I don't think the series is over at all, but that was very interesting there. Raptors beat the Nets in Game 4, 150-122. They earned a sweep. That was pretty much expected. Brooklyn, respect for them to being a postseason team, and with all the injuries and things they've been dealing with, obviously Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, those guys have been out pretty much. Durant the whole year. Kyrie, he may as well have been out the whole year as well. Hopefully those guys get healthy. The Nets, they're going to bank on that next season when that comes around. The Celtics were able to defeat the 76ers 110-106. I picked the Celtics before the series because of Ben Simmons' injury, but the Sixers are a complete mess right now. And I know Embiid, you look at the statistics, and I'll pull up Game 4 right now, and I don't think it's all on Embiid. I think he gets picked on quite a bit, and I mean some of it's deservedly so. But 30 points, 10 rebounds, he averaged around 30 points the entire series. But the Sixers are just a mess right now. You look at that roster, Brett Brown's going to lose his job. I think he did a good job through the head coach of the 76ers. He got him through the trust the process, the tanking era, and everything like that. But if you're going to be a coach at the next level to get your team from being a playoff squad to a championship team, head coaching needs to be improved. But also, you got to look at the team as well, the lack of accountability on that squad. Josh Richardson had a very good point about that, saying that there's a lack of accountability or attention to the detail with the squad. You look at Joel Embiid, sure, 30-10, but we know his inconsistency. He's been able to stay relatively healthy by his standards. I say by his standards, that's a bad thing to say for a 7-foot or 7'2" guy his size. We know he's had issues with weight and his conditioning, and that can always be improved. But I said he's been able to stay on the court, so he has made some strides there, but still, you want to see more from him. You look at Ben Simmons, and I mean, he injured his knee, the kneecap. That's not his fault. But still, we've not seen him develop an outside shot consistently. That's just laziness on his part. In this era of the NBA, if you cannot hit an open jumper, the same as free throws. That's on you as an individual. So he has not improved his game. And then you rest the team, and you look at the contracts. Tobias Harris and Al Horford, that gives you no flexibility. You signed them to long-term deals for too much money. They are in a limbo right now. And Elton Brand, our guy, who's spent some time in Atlanta. We've covered him quite a bit. He's the general manager of the team. I don't know if he survives this offseason as well. I think with the injury to Ben Simmons, you ultimately are going to run it back with this squad because they want to see the team healthy for a full season, even though we've never seen that with this crop of players or group of players. I think they're going to run it back for next year, but a lot of questions are going on in Philadelphia right now. And also, in the Lakers, they won their game. They won Game 3, 116-108 over the Blazers. I think the Lakers are starting to make that turn right now and take care of business. Now, they still have issues. Their shooting is still below average, and that can cost them in the playoffs. But I think if you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, if they're playing at a high level, and let's see, LeBron had 38 points, Anthony Davis had 29. So if they get 60-plus points between the two of them, they had 67 points between them in Game 3. If they get to 70 points every contest, they're going to win the majority of their games. And that's the reality of it. I think James has to score more in that regard. I mean, the assists are good, and that's fine, but their shooting is not very good. And when you have that situation, James, and he's a great player, he just has to adjust and figure it out, and he has. And Davis, 29 points, 11 rebounds. If he is the primary option on offense and goes inside and occasionally takes his outside shot, he's pretty much unstoppable, and that's what you're starting to see with him. And I think any more. Oh yes, one more. The Thunder were able to defeat the Rockets 119-107 in overtime to make that series 2-1. The Rockets still lead the series 2-1, and I know Russell Westbrook is out, so they're coming in a little hampered. But this is why the Rockets are never going to win a championship in this current regime. Defensively, terrible. You saw that multiple times. Chris Paul and other guys are able to penetrate the lane. James Harden, and I'm not saying I've been a defender, but I think his defensive lapses have been overblown. But you saw in that contest, his defensive effort was poor, to say the least. And that's what is ultimately going to cost them in the long run. Like, I know they like to take a lot of threes, and they're going to get their points. But when you are allowing so many open shots, the other team can hit threes as well. In fact, you look at the game, Houston hit 15 three-pointers. Oklahoma City hit 14. They only had a 3-point advantage in three-pointers. That's going to cause you to lose the game. And that's where Houston, they have to be plus 10, plus 15 to be in the running as far as three-pointers go. They probably average plus 10 to 15 during the regular season as far as three-pointers compared to their opponent. So if they're not able to do that consistently, that's a major problem for them. And that's all. Those are my thoughts on the NBA playoffs. And we'll go straight to the Miscellaneous Department right now. We don't need to take a break. Takuma Sato won the Indianapolis 500. Very odd timing. I think that race was hurt very, very much by the circumstances. We always know Memorial Day weekend, Indianapolis 500. We stamp it on our calendar for auto racing fans, and that's a great way to get that portion of the year going. They had the Indianapolis 500 on August 23rd, and sure, it was on NBC and everything like that, but it got minimal attention compared to what it normally would. We have the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, that going on. Baseball's going on right now. NFL training camp. People are starting to get salivating for that. And they're going to throw an auto race in the middle of it. Now, it's not their fault. I'm not saying it because this is the times that we live in. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have a race. If you can have the race, they can. And I watched a few minutes of it. I usually would watch a lot more of it. But I was watching the NBA. It was right kind of in the middle of the Sixers and Celtics. And that transitioned right over to the Clippers and Mavericks game. So that didn't allow much time for me to watch the Indianapolis 500. I may watch a little bit of a tape of it later on. But that's just the reality of it. It looked like it was a good race. It didn't end on a traditional green or traditional checkered flag, which kind of takes the sting out of it as well. Being in empty stands, in that type of race, you really feel the energy of the 100,000+ people there at Indy and watching the contest or watching the race. That was a thing that I took away from it, that it didn't feel like a traditional Indianapolis 500. But as I said, those are the rules, the way things are going right now, so you have to adjust. And that concludes today's show. Thanks for listening to everything that we do. And once again, if you want to see check us out, go to thesportsinquirer.net. Pretty much our news and notes in the world of sports. Twitter and Instagram, our social media platforms. Go to Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. Facebook, you can search The Sports Inquirer or Sports Inquirer. And finally, subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcast, and iTunes. And just look at the Sports Inquirer. Until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.